Hello and welcome to the next episode of Impact's Boulder Breakdowns. So in this series we like to take a little more in-depth look at some specific boulder problems and really break down all the intricacies of what's required to make them, any specifics with holds, all the things to do with hold positioning, hold choice, hold variation that's really going to have an effect on how these moves work. And hopefully you can take a little bit of that away with you, whether you're just going to climb similar boulders or whether you're route setting yourself and you want to create something in a similar vein maybe, then hopefully some of this series will really help you moving forward with that. So if you are interested in seeing more, make sure you like the video below and subscribe to the channel to get up-to-date info anytime we put out new videos. So this week's boulder is from the Meiringen 2021 World Cup. It's from the men's final, not sure which boulder it was, 2 or 3 I think, and it's got a really cool selection of moves in it. They've also got an amazing behind the scenes video that was produced by Flathold, which I'll put a link to in the description below, which really says a lot of the story behind the route setting process for this World Cup, which is really amazing because you just don't get to see kind of the behind the scenes at such a high level so often. So make sure you check that out as well. There's going to be a few clips from that in this video showing off some of the holds and things they're using, but have a look at that afterwards and you should get a real good insight into what goes on to create these boulders. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so let's have a quick full-time run through of this boulder to start with. So this is Kokoro Fuji on the block. It is block 3 of the final, and it's kind of built of 2 pretty separate sections. So these things that he's brushing here were new shapes by Flathold. I actually don't think they've been released commercially yet. So you can see in this little clip here, these are like the new inventions, I guess, new Flathold holds that Manu, who's setting here, he's also the owner, mad inventor behind Flathold. Something he's created where there's it's like a dual hold bolt-on system, pretty ingenious really, with the idea you can see right here, he's can rotate, he can slide these holds, so they're stackable holds which give you an absolute ton of options for maneuverability, again on this one here, which is one of the holds in the upper part. So it's really cool to see some ingenious engineering going into climbing and climbing holds now, and it only adds to the arsenal as route setters that we have, things to create moves, flexibility to change things exactly how we want them. In the behind the scenes video they talk a little bit about this start position and how it was originally designed to be facing out to the crowd. It's like a real route setter favourite, that, to create something quite interesting for the crowd to watch, something pretty spectacular. They also talk about the fact that they half gave up on the idea, basically that they didn't mind that people might start it either way. In the end the climbers all started it facing in. It tends to be the preference for climbers. It feels much more natural to start that way. You really have to force someone to face out if that is something you're trying to do. But let's have a little closer look now at some of the movement through this boulder, especially the second half, because there's a really cool sequence that's quite specific and something that'll be really good to break down. So through this start position you can see, let's just wind him through until he pulls on. You can see here as we stopped it that these 2 volumes that we're talking about, that we'll take a closer look at in a second, these are 2 really quite big volumes. They're actually 2 stacked on top of each other, and what that's doing is creating a groove for the climber to kind of be inside. Their centre of balance can be inside of both of those volumes. So this wall is pretty steep. I'm not sure exactly how. There's some shots later on and you'll see how much. Probably about 30 degrees I would say. So it's pretty steep. So to be able to get someone to push on in a palming position, you really need these 2 large volumes, deep volumes, that bring you out and give you lots of space to get your body inside. So winding on a little bit now, you can see that he can just about stay on with those 2 volumes. There you go. There's a good kind of demonstration of how steep the wall is, really steep. He manages to swap hands on this hold that his left hand's on here. That I think initially was there for them to spin around from, but the route setters kind of said they're going to leave options open, which is really nice in a competition sometimes. And they just do this little pop out now to this edge. Looks like a fairly good hold. So From here, basic little move, and then this is the move that I really want to kind of focus in on. This toe catch, kind of leg swing and toe catch onto this terrible looking hold. So let's take another quick look at that in half time to start with. So you can see that Kokoro here's got right hand here, a good left hand, and a foot somewhere behind him in this region. Now, the natural thing for the climber to do is want to immediately just reach out leftward to this. So the first thing you need to make sure if you're going to force this move is that that isn't within an arm's reach. Okay, if that was within an arm's reach, especially because it's going to be quite a big hold, as we'll go on to explain later on, people are just going to stretch out, they're going to grab it, they're probably going to match it, they're going to do anything they can to stay on that big hold, especially when they're hanging on some tiny edges in this case. So that has to be more than an arm's reach away. If we move on a little bit and we see where he ends up. Now, the second thing you really need to think about, and the thing that if they can't reach to it with their hands, the next thing that people will try is to throw their toe into that toe hook before they've let go with their left hand. So they'll put their toe in, they'll lock it in place, and then they'll go up slowly to the left hand. Later on in this comp, if you do watch the comp, it's worth watching everyone have a go at this block later on. Ondra tries that on his first go. I might be able to put some footage in of it now actually. So Ondra tries that on his first go, puts his toe in, because the distance of it, if we look here, the distance of it compared to the hand, it's basically at the same level, so it's really high. They've also put the toe hook so that it's angled like this and it's quite undercut, so even if you do manage to throw your toe out to it, it can still fall out the bottom of that toe hook, and you really need your body to be above kind of where the toe hook is, so where this horizontal line is. If you're too far below that, then the toe hook's going to kind of fall out the bottom of it because of the angle that it's at. If you're above that, you're going to have the directional pull of your leg's going to go like this, so along with the toe hook, and your toe's going to stay in. So if the toe hook, instead of being at the angle it's at like this now, was more vertical like this, it would be really likely that when Ondra tries it in this comp, he manages to put his toe in straight behind it, keep it there and do this move a lot slower. The last thing we need to look at when we're forcing this move is this kind of destination hold, so where you're going to end up when you do this move. So you can see in this position that sloper is terrible, it's really bad. So in the comp, some people try jumping straight to it because the steepness of the wall, because it's a bad sloper, and because it's brought out even further from the wall because it's stacked on those other two volumes with these cool flat hold contraption things they've made. It makes it even steeper, even harder to hold the swing, and it looks totally impossible without that toe hook. So in steep roofs, a lot of the time a toe hook is used like this to keep your weight below a hold. It allows you to hold much slopier holds generally than you would be able to otherwise. And in this case, all we're doing is trying to put someone into that position dynamically. So we're just trying to make sure that the toe hook can't get settled before you move your left hand, but the position that you move into is necessary to have the toe hook. If those two things are true, then the only way that people are going to be able to do it is by throwing, hitting the handhold and hitting the toe hook at the same time. This was quite an extreme version of the move. We'll play it through one more time. Quite an extreme version of the move because it was right near the top of the wall, so some people took some pretty bad falls from it. It's definitely not the sort of thing you want to be doing in a commercial route setting environment. You can get away with a lot more in a World Cup scenario because everyone's competent, more than competent, they're the best in the world. But still, I think some people came away from this one with some sore necks, sore backs, just because in this scenario, if you're falling off there, you miss the left hand or the left hand comes off and your toe's quite settled, you just tend to fall quite kind of horizontally. The last little thing to look at is this little kind of finishing sequence. Often, as I've said before, with these toe hook moves, the hardest bit is getting out of them. So we've got them into this position here. Comfortable little match. You can also stand down on that handhold that's going to give you some push. And then we're going to be forced to move out of this dynamically And then the only thing we really need to think about is that we need to give the climber some opposition. So at the moment, this sloper is kind of pushing you rightwards like that. They've decided in this case that you're going to go to a shoulder move, and this next sloper is really like opposing like that, and that's going to help you stop the swing. If that top hold was the same but facing rightwards the other way, you're going to have no way of stopping your swing. Another option would have been to put a rightward facing hold, but you'd need like a foot plant or something like that to finish and match the boulder as well. So let's just watch that last little move. Again, look quite hard. Another like really slopey dish, and you're going from a really bad hold, so hard to control. I think 1 or 2 people fell off that move in the end as well. Right, thanks for watching this episode of Boulder Breakdown. If you do want to see more, make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and check out some of the info that we've got on our website. If you do want one of these cool shirts or a beanie or anything like that, then head to the shop on our website as well, and there's a link in the description for that. All right, see you next time.